We're here to talk about breaking the rules tonight, so I just want to mention where the inspiration from this class came. I was talking with Paige this fall, and Paige said, well, Russ, I'd really like it if you'd mention something about breaking the rules, because I get questions all the time about, people read rule books and come in with their garden rules, and they're afraid that they're going to be breaking a rule in the garden, they're going to do everything wrong. So can you empower people a little bit? I said, Paige, you're brilliant. That's it. That's what we're talking about. So I've come prepared to have a discussion with you guys tonight to find out if there's bad rules that need to be broken by good people. So let's just get right into it. I've got a few questions for you guys, and feel free to give me questions along the way as we're going through this. Question number one, what kind of rules are there and where do they come from? This is the broad question. As an example, of course, legislation or lawmakers, that's the place where we get rules. Any other places we get rules? What do you got?
Bureaucracy is unwritten. We've always done it that way.
Unwritten rules.
Mom. Books.
Books. Educators writing books.
Religions.
Yeah.
Other gardeners.
Other gardeners, yeah. Gardening organizations. The rules of nature.
Experience.
I like that. Let's move on to the next question. Why do we have these rules? I think sometimes we have rules so we feel safe.
Like traffic laws are good things to have.
Sure. Stop signs.
Do unto others. The golden rule. It's a good common bond.
There's different reasons we have different rules, and I think that there's good reasons or good rules and bad rules. So let's explore this a little bit. Is it okay to break the rules? When and why? So it's probably not okay to be running those stop signs.
Unless you're on a bike and there's nobody around.
Exactly, when no one's looking. Well, when no one's looking, and also in that instance, you're not causing any harm, are you?
When conditions change of why the rules were set in the first place.
When it was a stupid rule to begin with.
If the rules that we make, the political rules, the legal rules, break rules of nature or themselves cause harm, then I think it's okay to break those rules.
So when the rules are causing us harm?
Yeah. Like you talked about global warming. There's tremendous numbers of rules that favor automobile travel, for example, or low-density housing, or any number of other really wasteful things that are harming us. And so I think it's okay to break those rules.
So there's some bad rules out there.
Oh, there are a lot of them.
So sometimes it's okay to break the rules. Agreed?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. What are the various rules that maybe you'd like to break, or maybe you see that aren't working?
Leave that creeping Charlie in your lawn.
Creeping Charlie. Oh.
Just leave it there.
Dandelions, Creeping Charlie, these are good rules to start breaking in the garden. I like that. There's a lot of design rules, aren't there? There's a lot of books out there on garden design. Rows. Square foot gardening. Beds? So that gardens have to exist in beds. That has to be separate from a lawn. Anybody heard the odd number rule? Plant in 3s, 5s, 7s, maybe 1. Cheaper is better. I like that on the food one. Well, we've got where are the rules coming from, and then they have their various reasonings. Sometimes it's okay to break those rules, and here's some of the rules that I like to break. I'm so glad that you said that about dandelions and about Creeping Charlie, because really that's the number one rule that when I start thinking rule breaking, that's the first one that pops into my head. If we could start breaking that rule collectively, we're going to save ourselves a lot of trouble. First of all, Creeping Charlie removes lead from soils. The University of Minnesota study shows that it removes lead from soils. Creeping Charlie removes lead from human bodies. I call it Good Time Charlie. I love that plant. Because that plant, I think we need ground covers everywhere we are. I can't stand to see plant bare space, because that means that there's a lot of water going out of the soil in the heat of the day. If that soil was shaded, then all the moisture would stay in the soil through the day and keep the plants around it growing better. So I love Creeping Charlie in and around my tomatoes, in and around, it's even in my strawberry patch, doesn't bother me there. Dandelions, they send down deep roots, they break up the soil. They can feed us. What is a weed, really? Michael Pollan, he likes to tell us that weeds are plants that grow with us. Really, when you look at it, weeds grow in disturbed soils, and humans are the #1 disturber of soils. So weeds grow alongside humans. They're just the plants that always have. And it tends to work out that they're the plants that also serve us. So dandelions send down deep roots. They really help the garden. They can be great next to tomatoes, next to zucchinis, next to all kinds of big, juicy fruiting plants, because they'll help pull some moisture up from the depths in the heat of the summer. Other weeds, plantain. Anybody know what plantain is good for?
Spider bites.
Spider bites. Yep, that's what, and it is good in salad, but I think the most magical experiences I've had with it, this summer I got bit by 7 deer ticks. This was 7 different occasions. 6 of those occasions, the first 6, I remembered to chew up some plantain. I picked the young leaves that haven't been walked on, that aren't in bloom, chew them, score them with my teeth, and hold it on the bug bite. And I didn't get Lyme's disease until the 7th time when I forgot. And I had to be treated for Lyme's disease this summer. A friend of mine who's an herbalist, I write about on the website, and she just says, that plantain will pull anything bad out of your body. If you have a splinter, put that plantain over the top of that deep splinter. It'll help start pulling it out. And if it's a really serious bug bite, like a deer tick, you're going to want to change it out a few times. A bee sting will go away in just a few minutes with the plantain.
So where do you get plantain? I mean, they grow wild out here.
My backyard.
Every one of our yards, every boulevard, all these plants that I just mentioned, I mean, we could go across the street. I saw them growing out there and forgot to pick some plantain to bring in. What I did not forget to bring in was from my backyard. I'll pass this around. This is wood sorrel. Who here has eaten wood sorrel? Nice. All right. So I'm not crazy. Okay. There's other people that have done it. It's good. And if you look at the rules out there, the rules say buy yourself some broadleaf herbicide and poison your own land and poison yourself and all your kittens and dogs in order to kill free medicine and food. That's a stupid rule. This stuff is great. Tastes a little lemony. Anybody here know what the doctrine of signatures is?
No.
So the doctrine of signatures tells us that plants that look like body parts are good for those body parts. What does that leaf look like? This plant is an antidepressant. Wood sorrel is an antidepressant. So, and it's lemony. I love salads that are really composed heavily of this stuff because it's just so zesty. But they are really, these plants that we mentioned, the dandelion, the creeping Charlie, the plantain, and the wood sorrel, they're in everybody's yard. If they're not in your yard, they're in your neighbor's yard. They're going to be easy to access. And that's the main thing, just one second, is access. I think this is a matter of access to health. And I think that's why it's so important. If they convince us that the only thing we should be growing in our yard is a plant that none of us can eat, that takes a ton of time and material to maintain, I think we're just being fooled. So this is access to free health. And also, all of those things that we just mentioned, like creeping Charlie and the wood sorrel, they're not invasive in our woods. They're invasive in our yards. They're invasive on grass. So I really think, I mean, Michael Pollan, I was reading one of his books, he says, you know, if you think about grass, it now stretches unbroken from coast to coast. That's a lot of grass. And it's not doing anything for anybody, really. I mean,
It's the #1 crop in America.
#1 crop in America. So I really like breaking that first rule. And that second rule kind of goes right along with it. Yards should be tidy. Somebody mentioned row plantings earlier. That's all right, I suppose, but I don't think it's really even the most productive. I think it's just the way that you can watch the easiest how much production you're going to end up with at the end so you can plan ahead. And I think it's an economic thing that's gotten us to start planting in rows. As opposed to in nature, if we rely on the abundance of nature and we let things grow as they're trying to come out in the yard, or at least have a good long look at what's growing out in the wild or coming from the wild into our yard, before we go pulling it out, I think we're going to find a lot of value. You know, the mulberry trees that grow up everywhere, well, that's a whole bunch of fruit. Basswood linden, that's a whole tree full of salad there. So sometimes I think a tidy space can feel really nice. But I think we need to start looking around at the natural environments that really ultimately made us. And none of those are tidy. So when you go to the woods or the forest or the prairie, you're encountering situations that are completely, every square inch is filled with plants. And they're the plants that decide to grow there and the birds decide to grow them. I think when we think about our yards, we need to understand that we're not the only influence. And we're not the most important. We're just one piece of the puzzle. And really, if we go around pretending like we're the only important piece of that puzzle, pretty soon we're going to be the only piece left. And you don't have a puzzle then, right? I think I'm taking that metaphor a little too far. But the point is, we need to respect the place that has made us. And that place throws seeds all over our yard. That rule, the rule in general, about being tidy and knowing where to plant things, I think we need to kind of let go of that and just start experimenting and playing. It's okay for one person's garden to look huge and robust, and for the guy next door who's starting out to just have a few tomatoes, and you don't have to have something gorgeous every time you go out. What you have to do is try and interact with the world around you and try and learn from those plants. Rule number 3, gardens cost money. I know, I own a garden business and I'm here being hosted by another garden business, and I'm telling you gardens don't cost money. And they don't. Soil, well, let's start here. Seeds are cheap, right? Soil's free. And I think here in this rule, I think maybe I exercise this rule a little bit, or breaking this rule a little bit more than the rest. Because I'm a mad composter. I can't spend a day, not a day goes by where I don't think about what I'm going to put in the compost pile to build some fertility in there. And the reason I put all this effort into building that soil is because it works. Where I moved my compost pile from, I had to place it in a different spot in the yard this year. And I put some squash vines, some corn, some other plants in that area. The squash, it grew up the apple tree 30 feet. I had squash and apples in the tree. The corn was 12 feet tall. Bagged compost, that stuff gives compost a bad name. Because you're right, it's dead. It doesn't have microbes in it. That stuff, and nothing that you could buy at Mother Earth would be that way. But the stuff that you get at the hardware store that looks like a clump and that says, sheep compost or cow compost, that's BS. All right. What you want is real, actual compost that's just fresh from a pile, that's going to have some wood material in it, at least some kind of soft plant material, some hay or some leaves, some bedding, and some strong source of nitrogen. Whether that be food waste or animal waste, it really doesn't matter. Each are equally powerful. Coffee, jungle fertility, totally free. Connect with your local coffee shop. Start telling them that you'll save them money on garbage hauling, because you can pull from one fairly busy coffee shop 12 cubic yards of compostable material. Anybody know how big a cubic yard is? 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet. 12 of those per year. That's soil. That's all fertility going into your garden. ComGar. Who's on ComGar? Community Garden Listserv. COMGAR. You can go on there and ask people garden questions. You can ask for garden materials. You'd be surprised. Let's see, worms. Worms are a way to prove that gardens don't cost any money. If anybody needs some worms tonight, I brought some. If you want to start up your own worm bin at home, they're very easy. I show how to do it on the website. These, a buddy of mine gave me 12 of these last winter, and I think there's probably 12,000 now in the little Rubbermaid bin that I've got. They like coffee, I can tell you that.